In this video, I'm going to share with you a common question I get asked, which is how do you kind of appraise deals on the back of a cigarette packet, because that's where usually things start. So I'm going to share with you a particular project that I've just agreed to get into, and I'll share with you the different options, how I look at it, and really simply I'm going to simplify for you how I work out whether the deal works and how I work out which option to go for. So watch this video. It's going to be an eye-opener for you, and hopefully it's going to be that really small thing that's going to transform the way you think about property. And if you're not into property, it's going to get you into property and into doing deals. I get asked quite often how I analyze deals. Now I've got a kind of a long and complex way of doing that, by the way, which is by way of spreadsheets. And being an accountant, I quite like spreadsheets, and you probably won't be surprised to hear that. And I will share that particular appraisal model with you on a separate video and go into detail to show you exactly how much detail I actually go into to work out what the cost of a particular project will be, and also of course analyzing the income and the value of the investment. But on this video, I'm just going to kind of share with you like a back of a cigarette packet calculation that I do when I'm looking at a particular project. And the one that I'm going to share with you, by the way, is one that I've just done right now, and we're going to go through the planning process to get it to where we want it to be. So let me kind of give you the basics. This property was on sale for £675,000. I quite liked it. It's like a grade 2 listed building, and if you've seen any of my videos, you'll know I've done a few of these grade 2 listed conversions. I quite like them. The buildings look nice, they're attractive, and it's kind of become a bit of a semi-expertise really, and I like grade 2 listed buildings. So 675 is how much it was on for. The person selling was quite motivated to sell. I was obviously motivated to buy. So we did a deal to buy at £550,000, which was pretty good going. I tried 500 grand, by the way. It didn't work, so I compromised at £550,000. This is a commercial building. And the rent on this building here, if it were let out as a commercial building, would be £50,000. Now that in itself isn't too bad as a commercial investment, because you just get slightly under 10%, which is pretty good going. If I could do that on a regular basis and I was just into renting out commercial property, this would work pretty well. It's a good place to be. I mean, most people who are into commercial investments, they'll say to you between 4 to 6% is pretty good going, and it is. And for residential, again, it's a similar amount. But I don't think you should be looking at 4%, 5%, 6%, 7%. I think you should be looking at 10% or higher if you can get it. But you're not going to get that by buying flats or a house and renting it out. You're going to have to add value to it in some shape, way, form, act or manner, and that's exactly what we're looking to do here. So let me share with you the two possibilities that we have. This particular building had planning for 10 flats, which lapsed. So now we have an option or an opportunity to go back to the planning department and apply for planning for 10 flats, or we could try and get more flats. So having commissioned my architect, we've come up with two additional schemes. One which will do 20 flats by converting the whole lot, the entire building. This one here was only converting some of it, although here we will still leave part of the ground floor as commercial, because this is in the city centre and the council, the local authority, are not keen to allow the entire building or other buildings as well to be fully residential. They want them to be semi-commercial. So the part of the ground floor, only some of it, will remain commercial, the rest residential. Or the third option is to do this plus there's land on the side, so to build an extra 10 flats, we need to erect an additional extension. So I'm going to now look at these two options and see which one works best for us. So we bought the building 550, and how I usually do it is I'll do a conditional contract, which is exchange contracts, and I don't usually pay a deposit. Sometimes you have to pay a deposit. It depends what agreement you come with the seller. You could just do £1, you could do 10%, you could do 5%. Like I said, I don't usually do anything apart from £1, but in this particular instance, let's just say I said £5,000, so I can give a £5,000 deposit. That's all I give. The conditional contract is based on us obtaining planning permission on the particular site. That obviously costs us in terms of architect's fees, planning consultants fees, any additional surveys that we do, and all the time that I expend. But that then gives me time to find the funds and have the assurance and the confidence that we've got planning, and I can then go and raise funds. So this is in a nutshell how it's going to work. If we have 20 flats, the cost of converting those 20 flats is going to be £1.2 million. So I've done the numbers here, by the way, I'm just sharing with you the end result. The GDV on those 20 flats of the entire development is going to be just over 2.4 million, I think it's 2.42 million. And we're buying the building for, as you know, £550,000. 550, here we go. So that plus that gives us 1.75 million. And then obviously I need to get these funds from somewhere, and these funds will come from bank lending, and I've assumed £200,000 in terms of interest for us to do the conversion. So the cost to us is the conversion cost plus the purchase price, I put PP up here, plus bank interest gets us to £1.95 million. Now there's a few of the costs here there, so I'll just round it up to £2 million to keep the numbers nice and easy in terms of legal fees, architects fees, planning consultants, that type of stuff. Then there's SDLT, but I'll just keep the numbers really easy. Let's just say we're at £2 million here. The end value is 2.42. The 550 cash, we are going to pay for this ourselves. So that's our investment. We then go to a third-party funder or a bank and say, can we have the funds for the conversion, development finance? And you're looking at, let's say, 6% interest plus 2% entry fee, 1% exit fee. So if you do it in a year, it costs you 9%. And you can see I've done it for more than a year, because the 200 grand is going to be based on 15 to 18 months. Once finished, we're going to refinance based on the value of 2.42 million at 75%. So 75% of 2.42 million is going to give us 1815. So just over 1.8 million pounds back. £2 million is what it's cost us. The difference between this is what we have invested in this particular deal. So here we've got £185,000 invested from the 550. The rest of the money we get back, and we obviously pay whoever we need to pay to. Now let's look at the numbers and see how that works. So if I was selling this particular development, it's cost me 1.95, or just say 2 million. I sell it for 2.42, and it's a 20% return, which isn't too bad. I usually aim to get more than that, but even on 20% it works. We're not going to sell it, we're going to refinance it, and we're going to keep it. So let's look at what I now get in terms of my return on investment, because that's important. So remember, I'm £185,000 in, that's what it's costing me. I'll round up the figures and say £200,000. So that's my investment in those particular flats. And remember, I've got 20 flats. I want to keep the numbers really easy, and let's just say it's £750 rent per flat per month. So we do 750 times 12 gives us £9,000, and then we just times that by 12 20 flats, which gives us £180,000. On that, of course, I need to pay for the costs. So on a mortgage of 1.8 million, we're looking to pay between 3.5% to 5%, let's just say 4%. So if I've got a mortgage on 1.8 million pounds and I'm paying 4% interest, and I always do interest only on investment deals because I want to free up as much cash as I can. So 4% is going to cost me £72,000 in interest. And let's say other costs, repairs, maintenance, insurance, all that type of stuff, which on a new building shouldn't be that high in terms of repairs and maintenance. But let's just call it, give it another £18,000 and say in total it's costing me £90,000 in costs, agent fees, that type of stuff. So take 90 grand off here. In very simple terms, we're making £90,000 profit. So to take off the £90,000 costs, we've got £90,000 left over as our profit. But you'll recall, downstairs, part of it is going to remain commercial. Now for that commercial element, I'm being told we'll get between £20,000 to £25,000 rent per annum on a lease of anywhere from 5 to 10 years. It could be a shorter lease, it could be a longer lease. So we're going to add the £20,000 from the commercial property. So £110,000 is the total net income I am going to receive from this particular property. Now let's work out my return on capital employed. We'll call it ROC. So we're getting £110,000 coming in. My investment is £200,000. So that's my actual net cash flow before tax, and that gives me a return of capital employed of 55%. You're not going to get that on if you buy a house which is ready made. You're not going to get that on a block of flats or a cluster of flats ready made. This is adding value and therefore creating this particular opportunity here. Now just so you know, if you've seen any of my other videos, this figure here usually is 0 and sometimes minus. The reason why it's minus is because I end up getting more cash back from a bank or a building society than how much I've invested. So I create extra cash flow for myself, and worst case it's 0 or 50 to £100,000. But in this particular case, using this example here, even from £200,000 in, I don't mind looking up £200,000 to create this type of cash flow, because you can see within 2 years I'll get my money back. So I can wait, and then obviously I've got the next X number of years, let's call it further 10 years, where I'm creating this extra cash flow coming into my business every single month without fail, and 110 grand coming in every single year. So it works pretty well. Now of course we can go into more detail about voids and say, are they 5%, 10%, 15%, and start getting a bit more complicated. But I'm just keeping it really simple and saying, let's just stick to this as it is. So that's my first option. I'm looking at 20 flats. Now let's look at 30 flats and see how that works out. So 30 flats will cost £1.8 million to convert. Bank interest is going to be higher than on the £1.2 million. It's going to be £300,000, and you'll recall from the earlier part of this video, it's costing £550,000 to buy the premises. Let's turn that into a nice little 5, but let me just do it again. 550. So my total cost here is £2.65 million. That's how much this is going to cost me. Now let's look at what the flats are, or the entire development is worth. So at the end, when it's all done, the 30 flats plus the downstairs commercial will be worth 3.57 million. Now the rent roll on that, on the 30 flats, at 750 times 12, which gave us £9,000 here, by the way. So 9,000 times 30 is £270,000 rent roll coming in every single year. Now we're going to refinance 357 at 75%. So I will get a bank loan on the 3.75 million at 75%. Interest, as you know, at around about 4%, just to keep the numbers kind of really easy and simple. So I will get from the bank 2.677. So let's call it 2.7 million to keep the numbers really easy. I get 2.7 million back from the bank. And if you go on the back slide here, the whole thing was costing me 2.65. Let's just make that 2.7 as well. So basically I will get all my money back. So I can pay everybody off, pay the interest off as well, and I've got 30 flats free plus the £20,000 rent on the commercial property. So we've created £290,000 worth of income coming in every single year. We're paying 4% interest on the let's call it 2.7 million. So let's work that out. So the interest on 2.7 million, and let's just look over here. The rent roll is 290, £290,000, and the interest is £108,000. And what we're going to do is add in other costs, and I'll add in another, rather than adding in 18,000, 12, let's add in 22,000, just to kind of keep the numbers nice and easy, but also realistic. So £130,000 cost, including repairs, maintenance, insurance, agent fees, and everything else, minus 130 from here, leaves me a nice £160,000 before tax, and my return on capital employed is phenomenal because I've got no money invested in this deal whatsoever. So now my thought process is, do I go for 20 flats or do I go for 30? Well, of course, looking at these numbers here, 30 is going to give me a better outcome. I've just got to convince the planning department that 30 is workable. I've had that conversation with the planning department, just so you know. They seem quite keen on it, or it becomes a much bigger investment and a deal. But doing 30 flats isn't a big issue for me. We're just building 40 houses at the minute. I've done 21 flats before that and 12 flats, so doing 30 isn't going to be an issue whatsoever. We can see here at the end we've got a beautiful model where simply there's none of our cash in here. Now what gets even better is, if you've seen some of my other videos, I do what's called no money down. So the initial investment of 550, which is to buy the property, comes in from an investor, so I never pay any of my own money. Now you might be thinking, well, what about the £200,000 if you build the 20 flats where you've got 200 grand stuck? That's when I come to an agreement with the investor where I say, okay, your funds are in there. So we've got two options. Either I give you £100,000 or you leave your money in there. You can charge interest for that period, and when the rent roll comes in, you just keep all of it, so we can pay you off on the 200 grand. After that, I start getting my profit. Either way, it depends on the individual investor which option they prefer. We can see here kind of a back of a cigarette packet, pretty much doing a rough calculation to see which one works better, and they're going for that particular option. Now, if someone were to give you, say, 30 flats without you putting a single penny of your money, but investing time to make the deal happen, you would say, well, how many of those can I do a year? As many as possible. So that's my thought process, and I've kind of simplified it. I do other things as well, kind of the internal rate of return, that type of stuff, because I'm an accountant. I like that kind of geeky stuff. But to keep it simple for you, all you really need to do is how much you're buying it for, below market value, through a motivated seller who works well. What's it going to cost you to convert? What's it going to be worth at the end? how much money are you going to be able to pull out, and who do you get the money from in order to buy the initial asset. We always buy for cash using investors' money, and then we get funding for the development work. In the end, pretty much we make sure we've added value and all of our money comes out. But even with the 20 flats, if it doesn't come out, if you've got 200 grand stuck in a 2.4 odd million pound project, it's not bad going whatsoever, because if you were to buy a property worth 2.4 million, unless say it's an office and you're using it for your own business, other than that, you're not going to be able to put 200 grand down to have a 2.4 million pound building, or flats. So even from that point of view, 200 grand isn't bad going. So that's what's going on here. I'm going to share the video with you where we're going to go into the building. I'll show you around. I'll then show you the plans. I'll then show you the detailed appraisal so you can see what's going on. At some point in the future, obviously, I'll share the journey with you in terms of start to finish.